We're excited to have you join us online. You're in the title session entitled Black Superheroes, presented by Naz John Paul. My name is Jennifer Smith, and I'm the moderator for this session. I want to share a few things before we begin. So, at NC Live events, we value the presence and active participation of all attendees. By joining us, you agree to uphold the principles of our code of conduct, which can be found on our website, and I'll put that link in our chat once I'm done. In the interest of time, we will save Q&A for the end of the presentation, but I do think that Naz is going to make this more of an interactive presentation. If you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A box or the chat, which can be found in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of the screen. I will be monitoring Q&A in the chat session in case anyone needs assistance. Please make sure that you stay muted during the presentation. This session is also being recorded. The presenter's slides will be posted after the conference if you would like to access them later. Now I'm pleased to introduce Naz John Paul. Naz is a library studio fellow at Davidson College Library. He manages the student employees, assists in library instruction, develops student employee training, and creates professional development opportunities that align with his interests. Naz graduated from Davidson College in 2024 with a BA in sociology, and he aspires to acquire a PhD in Africana Studies or a related field. He's interested in Black culture, community building and engagement, teaching and learning, traveling, multicultural immersion, and foreign language acquisition, fitness and skill learning development, reading and creative writing, superhero comics, and animated series, manga, and anime. African American diasporic religions, dance and music, walking and hiking, thrill activities, nature, and more. So, with that, I present to you Black Superheroes.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the introduction. When you read my bio, it just made me realize how many hobbies I have. But that's a good thing. So, hello, everyone. I am Nas. My full name is Nasir John Paul, but you guys can call me Nas. And today I'm presenting to you all Black superheroes. So, we'll go to the next slide. Oh, I don't know why it's not working. There we go. Okay. So for today's agenda, first we're gonna go. Well, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about who I am, but I think Jennifer already did a wonderful job with that. With my introduction, there we're gonna give context to, you know, Black superheroes as a field, as a discipline, but more so how my interests, where my interests derive from, and going on to how that eventually became a program at Davidson. Then we're going to talk about the collection and how we added comics and graphic novels of Black superheroes in our library collection at Davidson College Library. We're going to talk more about the program, how I planned it, what happened, what took place during the program, and kind of just thinking about, future possibilities regarding that. And then the future is more so just kind of exploring more so specific research, even academic papers that I plan to continue to work on, within the coming months, and also some other things that I'm involved in that kind of connects and brings this all together. So the presenter, that's me. Okay, we have this picture of me on the right. That's Nas. So, as Jennifer mentioned, I graduated from Davidson last spring with a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology. It's crazy because commencement was yesterday, so it's hard to wrap my head around that. It literally was a year ago that I graduated. So time really does fly, and I am a library studio fellow, and I manage the student employees. I develop training. I co-lead like workshop sessions, and I also just find opportunities that align with my interests, that connects with the library and other campus programming and initiatives. And I plan to apply to PhD programs in Africana Studies this fall to start my PhD program, hopefully fingers crossed, in fall 2026 after my fellowship ends. And I have a little bit, more compact list of my current hobbies. I'm currently learning Dutch. I've taken a little break from Dutch though to refocus my time on French and Haitian Creole. And of course, I've been reading comic books a lot, especially with a more academic focus. I have started repracticing my handstands too, which has definitely brought me joy to see that they have not disappeared from from my skill sets. They're still there. I just have to refresh myself regarding that. And I love taking long walks in nature. I love walking. I love being in nature. So I always try to be outside whenever I can. Okay, so the context, that's just like this whole backstory. So I grew up basically with my dad. And one of the things that we did together growing up was watching anime and watching animated television. So that was a lot of what my childhood consisted of, especially in quality time with my dad alongside playing video games. And, definitely was involved just regarding everything Marvel, especially everything DC. I was a big DC fan growing up, especially like me, my dad watched Justice League Unlimited, the animated series. I grew up watching Static Shock also. So, but I also watch a lot of Marvel shows too, like Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So it was just a lot of just exposure to superheroes that I, kind of just really took a huge liking to them. And one of the things that I really liked and enjoyed the most, especially as a child, was like seeing Black superheroes, seeing that representation. It just made me it's so much more, just kind of just that affirmation that like, wow, like there are Black superheroes and they're really cool. They have these cool stories, they have these cool powers, they're doing great things within their communities. They're saving the world. So that was something, because for the longest, my favorite superhero was Batman. I still love Batman, but I definitely have, as I've grown to like just explore the superhero world, the comics world, just outside of the mainstream comics, I've come to discover it and just learn more about just different heroes outside of, those mainstream comics and just, get exposed to that and just see what else there is to be explored. So that all kind of just built up like over the years as growing up, but more specifically when I was watching a show on Netflix. If you have Netflix, I recommend it. There is a spin-off series called Castlevania Nocturne, but there's also an animated series called Castlevania, but Castlevania Nocturne takes place in the late 18th century. So this is the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution are happening around this time. We have a Haitian superheroine named Annette. And basically, I was watching the show. This was the second season that came out earlier this year. But it kind of just dawned on me at that moment because it's like late January, early February. I was like, I don't really want to do something more with this. Like, this is really cool, especially I'm Haitian American. I'm Haitian, so I've also just find just great pride and just like, making efforts to do things with my heritage, celebrate my heritage, share it with other people. So that kind of really was like, you know, the spark that kind of like led all these events to kind of just happen consequentially. And I talked to my supervisor, Jamie, who is in this presentation now, who is watching. So shout out to Jamie, shout out to all the Davidson Library staff who came to support me today. And like I just kind of shared with her like what I was planning, and then she was very supportive alongside everyone else. And I am reaching out to Davidson's College Arts and Creative Engagement Studio. I know that's a space where a lot of students go in their downtime to like create art and basically just, just find a space where they can kind of just decompress and get away from their studies. And I thought this would be a great space for students to come and kind of just learn about, Black superheroes in general, but just kind of just talk about the topic. And I think one of the big things for me was like, I love the arts, but I'm not always the best artist regarding drawing. So trying to find a way to actually incorporate that artistic element within the program, but making it accessible to everyone, especially if they don't have like the best drawing or craft making abilities. So Mallory and Michaela, who are student managers at DACE, which is the acronym for Davidson Arts and Creative Engagement Studio, they helped in making paper dolls that were like already cut out, and then like people can just draw like eyes and like clothes on the paper dolls and kind of just like cut out different things using construction paper or using crayons and color pencils. They kind of just customize how they wanted to, but I'll kind of just go. I will show later, like later in the presentation, actually like some examples of what the students end up doing. Pretty much no one used the paper dolls, but I'm glad we still had them. I think they were great. We still like we had a lot of leftover material, so we left them in the studio. So if students did come in and wanted to just use the paper dolls or kind of just engage with the materials that we had there. We had a discussion prompt and we also had a flyer. Excuse me. With just like some basic overview information, like they were able to engage with that even after the program ended. So, and we're gonna basically like during the program, we actually kind of just had like just a big, I just kind of facilitated the conversation, giving like a brief like history about like, Black superheroes in general, like how they came to be specifically in mainstream comics. And then we just had like created discussion prompts where I kind of asked some questions and we can kind of engage with those two on our end today so we can kind of work through basically kind of just give like a model of like what it would have looked like, what the program would have looked like when we did it back in February. Okay, so I will go to the next slide. So we have the first Black superheroes. So Black Panther, he was the first Black superhero in mainstream comics, first African superhero, if we want to be more specific. Black Panther's the Marvel superhero. And, as I feel like within the past decade or so, I feel like there was definitely more traction regarding Black superheroes, especially with the debut of Black Panther's first film. So first live action film. So I think that that definitely was just a lot of traction regarding that. So it just came full circle just seeing that, not too long ago. I feel like about almost a decade ago that Black Panther first came out. But it's just amazing to kind of just see like how there's been a shift in like more and better representation of superheroes who are non-white and non-male. Such as, excuse me, like the Ironheart trailer that just came out not too long ago, about like sometime last week. And if you are not familiar, like Riri Ironheart, she was in Black Panther Wakanda Forever when Shuri took on the mantle as Black Panther. So kind of just seeing two Black women superheroes, especially in that film, and then seeing Riri kind of get her own show that's gonna premiere in June. It's just kind of amazing to kind of see all those things coming full circle. And then next, in a few years later, in 1969, we have Falcon becoming the first African American superhero. We also saw, not too long ago, a few months ago, that Sam Wilson, he had his first premiere, like first solo movie as Captain America. So, whether or not people liked it for whatever reason, I think it's like cool and good to have that representation because it also kind of just aligns with the comics on how Sam Wilson took on the mantle of Captain America after Captain America passed. And then in 1973, we had Nubia, who was introduced as Wonder Woman's sister. We actually have a graphic novel in our comic collection in the library. And this is actually a DC superhero. Black Panther, Falcon are Marvel heroes. So you kind of just see like how over time, like Marvel was a little bit more, you could say, aggressive with the diverse heroes that they were putting out during this time. DC was a little bit slower, but they ended up catching up a little bit later, like in the 90s. So, and then we have Storm, who was the first Black woman to lead a comic series. So in 1975, and then also in the same year, we had Missy Knight, a pioneer street level Black heroine. A lot of people may not be familiar with Misty Knight, but you can find her in a live action Luke Cage series on Netflix. And Storm is definitely all over. She's in a lot of X-Men movies, the Fox and Marvel. Excuse me. But definitely there has been, more opportunities for Black superheroes to gain representation over the years. And then we have the images of them over here. So from left to right, we have Captain America or Falcon, and then we have Storm, Misty Knight, Black Panther, and Nubia. So go to the next slide. Okay, from page to screen, this is like my favorite part because, I recently just started getting into comics. So like hard copy, did not read comics growing up. I only watched TV. So I feel like I'm able to become a little bit more just informed on exactly like all the stories that have been written over time because not everything goes to the big screen. So I feel like comics are going to be like exposed to all those stories that have been written and just kind of see how things look when they're adapted on the big screen compared to when they were written in the comics. And then when you see comics that were written in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and how those narratives have stayed the same or shifted as they, have gone to the big screen in the 2000s or the 2010s, and even now the 2020s. So first I'll mention this portrait on the left, Static Shock. I used to have locks before I cut them, and I really resonated with Virgil Hawkins, also known as Static. And Static Shock is the name of the television series that aired in 2000, and it had 4 seasons. And it was on Max before it was taken off. I'm not gonna lie, I can't keep up with the rebranding of Max because I've heard that they're rebranding back to HBO Max. So we will see how if the rebranding changes, the fact that they will put DC and Cartoon Network shows back on their platform because they took a lot of shows off there, such as Static Shock and other shows that really gave that representation of DC superheroes, especially ones that were Black. So, but I really just love Static growing up, and I asked my friend Drew Dang to make a portrait of me as Static Shock, and they did a wonderful job. I literally love it. It's one of my favorite art pieces that I purchased from them. And excuse me. And there were also just, other traction in that time, the late 90s, the early 2000s with Blade. I grew up watching the Blade trilogy series. I really enjoyed Blade growing up, and Blade 2 is my favorite Blade movie. And then also there is Spawn, the live action, but also the animated series by Tom
Yeah,
McFarlane. And there's
it's
also,
showing
excuse
up a
me,
bit on television.
other things that have happened later, as the years gone on, such as like, the Black Panther movies that came later, and especially like Miles Morales and the whole like Spider-Verse. And I feel like as things have translated from the comic form to like whether it be animated series or big blockbuster films, that gives more traction, more visibility, more impact of Black superheroes across just media in general, and it just allows more representation to be seen, especially for those who consume that type of content. And we have seen that characters like Shuri, Miles Morales and Sam Wilson, have expanded representation, transformed the superhero landscape, especially not just being side characters, but big, the being the main character, the main superhero in these big blockbuster movies. Okay, so we have the
Thank you, Jason.
connection. So I took the time to create a lib guide that basically kind of It shows all the comic and graphics novels that we have regarding Black superheroes at Davidson College Library. And then I also added another section where there's some scholarly literature. There are mostly books. I think they're all books that anyone can engage with if they want to learn more about just like the implications and the history regarding like Black superheroes in general. So if you guys can just give me a moment. So I will go here. Okay. So this back up here. Put this here. So this is the lib guide, and the link is in the slides that we will share that will be shared after the presentation. But I just want to just quickly overview just how the lib guides look. So we have a welcome page, and then we have a list of all the comics and graphic novels regarding Black superheroes we have. And this is more so just cater around Black superheroes, but we do have graphic novels on Black stories and Black characters that already exist in the collection. So we have Aquaman, who's a DC superhero. Bishop is an X-Men character. We have three Black Panther books. We have Captain America Truth, which is if you watch the Captain America movie with Sam Wilson that came out in February. He plays an important role in that movie. DC Power kind of just goes over a lot of like, prominent Black DC characters like Aqualad, as we've seen here on the top, and then Kid Flash, also known as Wally West, Vixen, and Batwing, and Cyborg and John Stewart, who we see here in Green Lantern. Icon and Rocket, they are part of the DC series, but they originally are characters that were created under Milestone Comics. And Milestone Comics was created as a way to kind of just build this space that where Black superheroes could thrive and they won't be undermined and kind of just get thrown in the back just because they're being overshadowed by predominant, most of the time being overshadowed by white superheroes. So Dwayne McDuffie and the co-founders created Milestone Comics, and Icon and Rocket are part of those superheroes that were, part of the Milestone universe, but they went under DC Comics and the DC universe. And Static is also another character from Milestone Comics. He was created by Dwayne McDuffie. Also, and they're all not under the DC universe, so you would see Static. You would see Static, Icon, Rocket, and some other heroes from the Milestone universe interact with DC characters, like in the Static Shock show. Like there are episodes where Static interacts with the Justice League, so Batman, Green Lantern, Superman. Then we have Monica Rambeau, Photon, also known as Photon. As I mentioned earlier, Nubia and the Amazons, Static, and Tales of the Orishas is actually not part of a mainstream comics universe. Hugo Canuto is a Afro-Brazilian artist and writer, and basically Tales of the Orishas kind of just depicts the Orishas who derive from the Yoruba religion, but also play a huge role in the Brazilian Candomblé religion as superheroes. And they are basically battling against this evil force within the comic book. The artwork is incredible. It's really cool. So, and their the original work is printed in Portuguese, but the copy that we have at the library is in English, and there's copies available in English online if you look up Tales of the Orishas by Hugo Canuto. So that is our collection, and then we have some scholarly work here where we have Black comics, Black Panther philosophy, Black superheroes, Milestone Comics, and their fans, as I was talking just about like just how this was an initiative that happened in the late 90s where Milestone Comics was created to kind of just center voices around being Black superheroes, Black woman in sequence, desegregating comics, Encyclopedia of Black Comics, graphic memories of the Civil Rights Movement, Hero Me Not, Super Black, The Blacker the Ink, and the content of our caricature. Excuse me. And this is a way for anyone who is interested in this field to kind of just also see just beyond just Black superheroes, but just looking just like at the impact of comics in general, and especially comics regarding the political and social landscape and how they play a role in representing different groups. Especially when we're telling these stories about these groups of people and how they overcome obstacles and how that eventually may have led to them gaining their superpowers or maybe connected to their backstory. So if we go back here to the slides, here's the link here. Like I said, this will also just be shared with everyone after the presentation, but I will just continue for now. And here, I'm sorry, just having a little bit trouble getting everything sorted. Okay. Oh, that's not working. There we go. Okay, so the program. So here we have the artwork that was done. We have a student drew like kind of just like a very fit, muscular character with an afro. And this student drew a superhero who was very inspired by Icon here. And then we also have another student who drew a character with also like just like Afro puffs and kind of just more so like seems to be into demolition. And we have 5 students in attendance. And it was great because we spent 2 hours together kind of just drawing and talking and just about, our favorite superheroes and shows and things like that. So it was just kind of just a great experience to kind of just delve deep in just like that topic in general. And it seems that even when we were talking about this subject, that the students, in attendance also felt, similar to me, like how, important it is to have that representation and how sometimes it could seem a little bit difficult to, have, that representation, like just being a parent and then it be backlash from other groups of people on like they're not being strong enough, not good enough, or not smart enough. So we were kind of just having discussions like that. So I feel like it was definitely, even though it was very artistic in the sense of like the program as a whole, I think it was also very academic too, in that sense where we're just discussing these implications on representation, especially where we think about modern media. And then here is also, we had a link of creative discussion prompts. For the sake of time, I will not be going over the questions fully, but there are questions about like who's your favorite Black superhero? What like what animated series or cartoons, films, graphic novels or comics did you grow up with? Were there any Black superheroes that are depicted? Who was your favorite and why? And then we have more of like this is kind of connected to like when they started making their own superhero questions about, like how would you want your backstory to be? Would you want it to be tragic, or do you want it to be a little bit more lively or even comedic? And then what will your superhero name be? What will your superpowers be? Well, and how do they reflect your character and identity? And who are you know, who who is the sorry, excuse me, who is the people that you are, fighting for, whether in the sense like you want to be a superhero in a specific city or in a specific, world that is, not even Earth, but it could be this another world that you create within your universe. So also just think about world building and then also just like the different aspects of like if you can have a secret layer, like what would it be? And where would it be? And also just like would you like a partner or a sidekick, and how would they look like, and what would their powers be, what would their backstories be? So just thinking about all the senses, just like thinking about like the motivation, the inspiration, just that representation that we see, and just kind of using that as a tool to build out our own creativity and creating our own superheroes. So as I said, this presentation will be shared after. And if you are interested in using these questions to kind of just, build out your own superhero, please feel free to do so. And then now we have the end, the future. So here I shared earlier that I'm Haitian. So last week for Davidson's annual Werner Miller Case Research and Creative Work Symposium, did a presentation on Haitian superheroes. So it's very much similar to this presentation here. And basically I was just talking just about, these two superheroes, Dr. Voodoo, and I mentioned Anna earlier. Dr. Voodoo is the first Haitian superhero in mainstream comics. He also depicted in the 70s, and he's a Marvel superhero. And just talking about like how, because both of these superheroes, their powers stem from their connection to Haitian Voodoo or being practicers of the Voodoo religion. So just talk about historically how Haitian Voodoo has been stigmatized and misrepresented, and how in some ways those misrepresentations continue to be depicted within different comics, but also how we have seen better representation over time. A lot of the comics of Dr. Voodoo are from the 70s and 80s, but there is a more modern comic collection from the 2010s. And then Anna has depicted, within the past 2 years on Netflix in the Castlevania Nocturne series. So that's a little bit more modern. We have people doing more research to make more, better represent the different religions that are intertwined within these shows and modern media. But there are still some things that could be done a little bit better, and just kind of talk about the direction that, we can take as individuals, as community members, and as librarians to better, just have that conversation about, especially when we're talking about making, especially if we're thinking about heroes who are not white, but if there are non-African American, how those heroes being represented within mainstream American media. And then I just wanted to pitch something I have been involved in on my free time. The lab is a grassroots initiative that I've been working on. It stands for the love of Africa and the Black diaspora. You can scan the QR code via your phone. You can call the link here, but I will show you where this takes you. And sorry, there's just so many things going on my page, but so give me a second to navigate to the link. So this is the Google form that it would take you. And like I said, the last stands for the love for African and Black diaspora. It's a space that celebrates Black culture across the world, especially the literary, visual, performing, creative arts. So basically, this form is, it's very short, but it just asks for your email and your name. These are like the four pillars I'm imagining that the lab will consist of. So identity and cultural heritage, visual and media storytelling, rhythm, movement, and performing arts, and literary oral tradition. So if any of these interests you, or you feel like this is something you would like to see, and you can just check out, one, or you can check out all of them. And I'm thinking about sending monthly newsletters. And the first one I'm thinking about sending something regarding, Haitian Heritage Month. May is Haitian Heritage Month. And I also did another presentation on, Haitian dance, specifically Petwo, which is part of the Petwo Congo sect of Haitian Vodou, the religion, and it's a little bit more fiery, a little bit more, intense than the more benevolent side, the Rada Nation of Haitian Vodou. And then also in that presentation, I depicted Haitian machete fencing, also known as Titty Machette. So this is something I will probably share in a newsletter in that sense, to kind of just give a sense to share with people about like Haitian heritage, but also projects that I'm personally being involved in, and also just showing like this is, how I want to be able to celebrate, not just my culture being Haitian, but also just different cultures that I take a great interest in. And if there's anything you'd love to see specifically, whether it be advanced programs, workshops, performances, creative projects, please feel free to, draw your answer there, but it's not a required question. So please don't feel obligated to do that. And then you can press next, and then you allow you to submit your response. And if you want to copy your responses, I'll allow you to do that also. And now, basically, we're done. Thank you all for being so patient with me and my, my technology complications. But I appreciate you all for attending this session of Black Superheroes. And if there are any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or I guess use the raise your hand feature and unmute yourself. So thank you.
So Shannon asked for the QR code for the LAB again.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
there we go. Sorry about that. Hopefully this is big enough. Let me try to zoom in. It's not working.
That was awesome, Nas.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a question. So, and you've talked about this, but it's in your intro, so that you
Hmm.
get to create professional development opportunities that align with your interests. Obviously, this is a big interest for you. How do you feel like that's added to your daily work life and even to your library that you've gotten
Hmm.
to do something you're really interested in?
Yeah, I feel like this has definitely put me on a track that has been very just, amazing in one sense. But I, especially like such as being here today presenting at NC Live, but I also have future opportunities where I'll be presenting at additional conferences. I have interacted with the Roundtable on Ethnic and Minority Concerns at NCLA. And they want me to continue to just, just talk about Black superheroes and its connection to librarianship, specifically Black librarianship in both academic and public libraries. So just thinking about like how this one program, how this one idea kind of just started, it kind of just built like this whole different sense of work regarding this that you just do something because you find an interest in it and you probably do something on your own and you continue to do that work, but it might just be like a one-time thing because based on like, engagement with this specific topic. But I've seen that so many people have found interest in it. They want to continue to build on it. And it's allowed me to continue to engage with the subject, not just on my own, but to also bring it to different communities outside just the Davidson College and the Davidson community, but to expand in Charlotte and even North Carolina and the Carolinas.
We do have a comment from Adrian that says, "Thank you, love, that someone did this finally." So
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate
I'm gonna
it.
see questions. I don't think I can see the Q&A, but Devin will let us know if anything
Hmm.
pops up there. Does anybody else have any more questions? So I had a question, but I'm gonna wait.
Hmm.
But the comics that were on your lib guide, those are things that people can check out.
Yeah, those are things that people can check out at the library. We currently are closed to the public for renovation, but there are ways that people who have whether they're students, staff, or faculty, or Davidson community members, they can use the Davidson College Library website to check out items, to request items so they can check them out. So we will still have, we're working those things out, but we'll definitely have our items, our collections still accessible and ready to be checked out to those who are interested in reading those books.
Very cool. I'm sure your library is grateful to have an expert in you because,
Definitely not an expert, but I
well,
appreciate that people just bless me with those kind words. I see so many thank yous in the chat. I just want to say I'm so glad you guys enjoyed the presentation. And I hope this is something that you can bring within your own spaces and continue to share with your colleagues and community members. But I really just have to thank you all just for being here. So this is you know, it's remarkable to just kind of just share something I'm so passionate about and have so many people just enjoy it too. So that makes me happy.
very good. Well, I think we're good, and we're just
Okay.
grateful to you for having the presentation and sharing your passion in
Yeah.
comic books. And thank you everybody for coming today.
Mm-hmm.
And enjoy the I think we're one or two sessions left.
All right. Thank you all.